Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. The training lasts about an hour and a half, give or take, just depends on some load times. We do record the trainings, so you can always come back if you can't stay for the entire time. Also, that allows you to share the link with other people who need to be system admins. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask questions about a feature as I go over it, and I'll try to address them as soon as I see the question. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So here you see our dash login page. We need 3 pieces of information in order for you to get logged in. The first up is your username, and that's going to be your email address in all lowercase letters. Then we need your password, which is case sensitive. And then lastly, your account name, which is typically your organization name. It could be your own name. That is not case sensitive. Now, if for some reason you can't get logged in, down here on the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that. It's going to flip it around. But we still need your email address. And then we need one of these 2 pieces of information, right? So typically the account name is the easiest, but you can also use your phone number that's on the account, right? And that's like your company-facing phone numbers. Then you would click on the reset password link or button here. This will send you an email. In the body of that email, there'll be a link that lets you sign in temporarily. So that way you can change your password and then it'll log you back out. So you can come back to this page and then you have the option here to click on Remember Me. So I'm using a test account that I log into on a regular basis. So when I log in now, I get taken here to our dashboard page. If it's your first time logging in, you're actually going to be taken to a slightly different page, and that's your user account page. Now, you can always get back to that page by clicking on your name up here to the top center, just to the right. If you click on your name, a big pop-up will show up, and that's where like you would change your password, for instance. Now, as a system admin, over on the left here, you can click on the account level settings. You can change the time zone and language, etc. Technical contact. If you need to change the account name, you want to email our billing team, and that's billing@virtualpbx.com. System admins can also manage your add-ons, right? This will let you enable particular features onto your account without actually changing your account. And so you can see here the features that have been enabled on this account. Now, some of them will increase your bill. And if that's the case, there'll be a pop-up that shows up telling you how much per month that feature is going to cost you, right? You still have to confirm that before it gets activated, right? So if like you say, oh, no, I don't want to pay that much, you can close that window and you're not getting charged that amount. Over here on the left, we also have the billing portal. And this link here will take you to the actual billing portal. It's going to ask you for the email address that's associated as the billing contact and then give you a PIN number so you can log in. That's where you would change things like your payment method or see previous invoices. All system admins can also click on the cancel account button here, and they can fill out this form, and that will cancel the account by the next billing cycle. Right? So basically finish out the current billing cycle. Once you're done here, click on the little close button here at the top right, and you'll be taken to the dashboard page. So up here at the top, again, you have your name, right? So you can click on that, get back to that user account page. Most of you to the right will have a DND toggle, right? DND standing for Do Not Disturb. Mine is currently active because it's white, meaning I'm not taking calls, right? So if someone tries to dial my extension number, they go straight to voicemail. Right, and I can click on that toggle to turn it back off, right? So calls will come into me. If you don't have this toggle showing up, that likely means you're part of the call center, right? The ACD queues, right? Because the DND toggle and the call queues don't work well together. Little phone icon here. This opens up a new tab. and takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It does require a login, which just uses your dash login. That will only work, however, if you have a web phone device added to your user, right? A web phone is a VoIP device, just so you're aware, but that allows you to use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive a call. Next, we have a little chat bubble. This will open up a new tab and takes you to virtualtext.app. This has its own login information, but that is one of the ways you would use text messaging, assuming it's been enabled on your account and on your user. Little question mark icon here. This will open up a chat bubble at the bottom right of your browser page, and that allows you to speak to one of our support team members to walk you through a particular feature. The three horizontal line icon or the menu icon, this takes you to other dash features. The vast majority of our training will be here under the dashboard. Oops, here we go. And, right, this dashboard section, that's the majority of our training, but we'll touch on some of these others as well. And the little arrow here to the right, that is your logout button. Now here in the center, total users, I have 3 users on my account, right? It's either people who make and receive calls. I'm being billed for each of these users, right? As well as their devices, etc. Speaking of devices, I have 10 total devices. And a breakdown here. First up is cell phone. You can add a cell phone or a landline number as a contact number or device on your account, which means we can send a call to that cell phone number, right? So you can pick it up and answer it, etc. You're not going to be able to transfer that call to another user on the account, however, but you can at least answer the call. Right. Soft phone, software application, uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. This includes the VirtualPBX soft phone app as well as any third-party soft phone apps. Again, these are VoIP phones. Right, web phone, again, that Chrome or Firefox device. And then lastly, we have the SIP phone here. This is a physical VoIP phone, right? So it's an actual piece of hardware. Generally speaking, connects via an Ethernet cable to get to your router and then to, get to the internet. So you can make and receive calls. Beyond that, it acts like a regular phone. Total numbers, I have 19 phone numbers on this account. That's actually quite a lot. Most of our plans, you get one main number and then a local number per user, although that will vary from plan to plan. And then you pay an overage per number per month. And I believe that's currently $4.99 per month per phone number. And then I have a breakdown here. First up is spare numbers and assigned numbers. Right? Assigned number means I'm using it. Right? Someone can dial that number and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or be sending a fax. A spare number, you're currently not using it. Right? Counts towards your allotment of numbers, but for whatever reasons, you've taken it out of service or haven't put it in service in the first place. But then down here, I've got US DID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833 currently. US DID just means a US local phone number, right? So a number in, say, San Jose, California is a US DID, just as if you had one, say, in Grapevine, Texas. You can have international numbers on your account. If you'd like to add one, you want to email our porting team. That's porting at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's possible and if there are any additional requirements that that country has to get a number. Conference bridges, I have 2. That means I've enabled the conference feature on 2 of my users, i.e. these 2 people can host or moderate a conference. Over here to the top right, I've got my main number box, which I currently have, looks like 5 main numbers. So those numbers all go to the same spot on my system, and in this case, they're all playing the same main greeting. Down below that, I've got my conference room number, which is my main conference number. It's the number everyone dials to join a conference, whether they're my staff members or client or a vendor. Then I've got my main fax box number. You can have one main fax box number, and that's your inbound fax number. It also allows you to edit the fax box to allow for outbound faxing if you're so inclined to make use of that. Then we've got the company directory. There's two download links here. The first one is CSV. It's just that, a CSV file that you can open with your favorite spreadsheet program. It's going to list your staff members' names, their extension numbers, their email addresses, and their devices. The soft phone directory is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application, right? So if you're using our app on a Windows or Mac PC, you would download this file and then upload it to your soft phone app on your computer, and it's going to show the other staff members who are making use of the VirtualPBX soft phone and their status, right? You can see if they're on a call or not, if they're using their VirtualPBX soft phone. Excuse me. All right. The VirtualPBX store, this opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you would order things like a web phone, for instance. The account realm, every account has its own account realm. It's used in a couple things. It's one of the three pieces of information you would need to program or provision a third-party soft phone. It's also what you would need to send a fax out, which we'll cover once we get to email and fax box number. Up here at the top, I have your caller ID button here. This pull down lets you select any of your main numbers on the account, and this becomes your default number. So like this is what your VoIP phone uses by default when they make an outbound call. The hold music button, this allows you to upload your own media file. Dash will play back .wav or .mp3 files up to 1 megabyte in size. Generally speaking, we recommend recording in mono, not in stereo, so you can have a longer duration file. A 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes long. Right, so you would click on the upload button here, right? Find the file on your computer by clicking the browse button, right? Give the file a name, click the up arrow icon, and then save changes. So then the system will upload it and save it, and it becomes the default hold music for all your staff members. Now, this only plays after your staff members have pressed hold on their VoIP phones, right? So call comes in, rings, coworker Bob's phone. He picks up, answers the call, speaks to the customer, and then presses hold on his VoIP phone. That's when this file plays. All right, hours is actually part of main number, which we don't want to set up until we have other things on the account in place. So over here on the left, little person with a desk icon here, otherwise known as users, shows all your users on the account. The people with the little blue suit icon, those are your system admins. And then you see Dante is just a great person icon. He's just a standard user, so he's got very limited access. Up here at the top is you would click on add user to add new people. All right, first name, last name, the system wants some sort of text. The email address used for login should be unique for each user, i.e. you're not reusing any emails among multiple staff members. That is how the system communicates with your staff members, right? In terms of voicemail notification emails sent to this address, as are password reset emails. Create a password for the user, and then enter an extension number that you want them to be or want them to have as their default extension number. Right, the system will start you off with extension 1000, so it will offer the next number in that series, but you can always change it to whatever you want. I generally recommend 4-digit extensions as that gives you the most versatility and room for growth. It also saves your menu options for other things instead of using such single-digit extensions. By default, the system will automatically create a voicemail box for the users that you create. This voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So one of the key features of that intrinsic connection is that when you create a user, then you say you add a VoIP phone that gets registered, they can pick up that VoIP phone, dial *98, and then click call or send. That's going to log you in directly to the voicemail box that was created for them. The system will then walk them through creating their voicemail box PIN number, as well as how to create their voicemail box greeting. And they'll even have the option to record their name, which is what the system uses for the directory. Here's your option to include that user in the user directory. You can always change this later. You have an option here to send emails to an alternate address. This will supersede the email address used for login, right? So if you want those like voicemail notifications to go to a different email address, you would click on this little box here and then enter that different email address in the box provided. And you can again change that at any time. And lastly, send credentials to the user. I view this as fairly important, so I usually tell people to put a check mark here. So once you click on create user or create user and add another, this person gets an email welcoming them to the Dash account, provides them with the Dash login information, as well as a link to get logged in. Right. This is especially important for anyone that you want to make a system admin, but even useful for your standard users. Once a user is created, you can click on their name at any time. Right. If you need to change the name, just change the information in the boxes provided. If you need to change their credentials, we just click on this link here. Right, so you would change email address. You can also change their password. And if you click on the little link right there, you can send them the password reset email directly. Here, you can change their voicemail box PIN number. Right, just enter 4 digits and then save changes. Here's your option to add an alternate address. Right, just put a check mark, add the email address. And then here's the option to be in the user directory or not. This pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin back down to a user. This pull down allows you to change the time zone for the user, so that way like their voicemail timestamps are showing the correct time. The little flag icon here, this allows you to change the display language of these web pages for this user. So for instance, you can change it to English or French or German or Russian. Those are currently the only languages available. And then ringing timeout. The default is 20 seconds. This is plenty of time to route calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user who's only going to be using a cell phone, you're going to probably want to increase this to 30 seconds, possibly as much as 45. That simply just takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does to, say, a landline. All right, next up we have the extension box for a user. All right, it has the main extension you already created for them. You can always click on add extension to add additional extension numbers to a user if you're so inclined. And then we have the phone number box for a user. You can add phone numbers directly to a user. If you do so, that phone number is available 24/7. Right, it does not have hours of operation or holidays. But anywhere you can add a number, you have 2 choices. You can add from spare or buy new. Add from spare is just using a number you already have on your account. Right? It's just you haven't assigned it any place yet. Buy numbers is just how you add new numbers to your account. Right? So add from spare. If you click on it, it's going to show you your available numbers. Right? You would just click on the check mark and then click on add selected and then save changes. Buy new, you have local or toll free. Toll free, you select the toll free prefix you want to work with. And then the system will provide a list of available numbers. You can scroll down and it'll provide more. You can add multiple numbers at once if you're so inclined. Right, but you would just click on add next to it. Now, at this point, you haven't done anything, right? You haven't reserved the number or anything of that nature. Right, once you click on buy numbers, now you've actually added it to your account. Right, so that number is actually yours. Basically, at this point, yeah, the system is verifying the number was truly available and then adding it to your account. And in both cases, you would then click on Save Changes. Right? Since I didn't click on Save Changes, they weren't added here. So they were that toll-free number I just purchased, for instance, is now a spare number. If I go to local, you need to know the area code that you want to work with. Let's see if, right, any area code, you can get this message. And it's just saying that there's no readily available phone numbers in that area code. That means what you would want to do is use your favorite search engine, do a search for, in this case, area code 310 overlay, right? And then go back to search. You'd be told that that is area code 424, right? Overlay area codes, right? 2 or more area codes that have the same geographic boundaries. Right? But then you'll see that there's plenty of numbers to choose from in 424. Again, click on by numbers to make sure you can add it to your account. And then you would click on save changes. Now also, you have a little gear icon here next to any number. First up is caller ID, right? So here you can create CNAM information that you want to add to the phone number when you make outbound calls, right? So we basically associate up to 15 characters of text, and that counts spaces as part of the 15 that we send out with the phone number when you make an outbound call. And then here you accept or turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM, right? So that shows up on your staff members' phones. One thing to keep in mind for that outbound CNAM, we can only control what we send out, right? The receiving carrier has final say about what shows up on the phones in their network. It's also possible that the carriers between us and the destination carrier may not support CNAM, so that way the information doesn't even reach them. But usually it's that final carrier that has final say, like your mobile carriers, for example, right? Your cell phone carriers. They're the ones who typically only pass through the phone number, right? They usually don't pass through the name. Like my cell phone carrier wants to charge me like $10 a month to have the CNAM information show up on my cell phone. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address, and that can be important because you can then assign that phone number to a specific VoIP phone for the purposes of 911 only, right? So like Bob is working from his home office, and you can have on his VoIP phone a particular phone number set up so that if he happens to dial 911 from his VoIP phone, the correct address for Bob's location is sent to emergency services and not your corporate headquarters. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. So for instance, like on these numbers here, I would probably put the word in direct, and that word would show up on my VoIP phones when calls come in that called on these numbers, right? And it's on a per number basis. And so I could say like TF direct if I wanted to or something like that. Next up, we have the device box, add from new. First up is SIP phone. So you have these manufacturers to choose from, right? Some like Yealink have a lot of models to work with. Some only have like a dozen, right? So find the make and model of the phone you want to work with, right? Give it a name, right? Bob's phone, warehouse phone, something like that, right? And then enter the MAC address. This is typically a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, typically if you go under like basic settings or status, you'll find the MAC address listed there as well. And then you would click on create device and then save changes. All right. Then you would come back and here's that Yealink device. Click on the name. Go to advanced and select miscellaneous. And where it says allow reprovision, right? Click unlock. You get a little warning, a green message saying that's been unlocked. Save changes and then save changes here. So now, as far as the dashboard is concerned, you're done, right? Like, okay, we're ready to provision this device. That means now you have to log into that phone's IP address and put that information in your browser on a computer that's on that same network as that phone and log into that phone's web user interface. and then basically tell the phone, hey, go to this specific URL to download your configuration file. It will do that. It's going to reboot a couple times and then show up as a green device here on your dashboard. For the specifics of that, if you go in the show notes, you're going to look at the auto provisioning phones document. That's going to have screenshots for these various manufacturers, as well as the proper syntax for that URL, as well as some settings for some of those manufacturers. All right, next up for new devices, we've got cell phone, and this also applies to landlines. All right, give it a name, and then in the number section here, you put +1 area code and number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. And then you would click on create device and then save changes. So here, if we go here, you see here's the name, and then here's how the number should look, right? That +1 area code and number. And if we go to advanced, this is the default setup for a newly added cell phone or landline. So what this means, call comes in, rings to your cell phone. When you pick up your cell phone, the first thing you're going to hear is, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take the call. Right? Which is great if there's an actual person answering the call. But if you've contracted out with an automated answering service, right? So they gave you a phone number, just send your calls to this number, we'll handle your calls, right? That automated answering service doesn't know when to press 1 to accept the call. So in that instance, you would come here under the advanced settings of that phone number, and where it says allow use of cell phone or landline's voicemail, put a little check mark here, and then save changes. So now what happens is when we send a call to this phone number, when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? So there's no message about this is a forwarded call. There's no need to press 1. It just connects the call. Now, if this is your actual cell phone, right? If your cell phone voicemail picks up, that's still a pickup tone. So the system would send the caller to your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. So just that's a personal preference thing at that point. The other thing that can come up is this one here is keep original caller ID. And that is just to say customer Mary is calling, reaches my cell phone. On my cell phone, I see customer Mary's phone number. Now, if I've been getting a lot of robodialers, or it's probably going to happen later this year as we get into election season in the US, right? I'm going to get a lot more political calls that I just don't want to deal with. So if I don't recognize the number, I let it go to voicemail, which means I could lose out on business. So what I could do instead is uncheck this. So now, when customer Mary calls, instead of seeing her phone number, I'm going to see this phone number I selected here for my main under my main number. Right? So hopefully I would recognize my company number, and so then I would answer that call. All right, next up we have soft phone. Whenever you add a soft phone or web phone to the account, you're going to get a warning message like this, basically talking about wireless VoIP technology and 911. Please make sure you read this at least once. And then you can close it. Now, when you're adding a soft phone, it defaults to adding a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using someone else's soft phone application, which is fine. We're not going to get mad at you for using someone else's soft phone app. In that instance, you would give it a name, right? Copy and paste the SIP username, and that's what you would use. That's one of the pieces of information you'd use with that third-party soft phone. Click on the SIP password box to reveal the SIP password, and then copy and paste that. Please don't delete it or change it. And then the account realm. Right, those are the 3 pieces of information you would need to get that third-party soft phone to work. Right, then you would click on create device and save changes. Now, if you want to use a VirtualPBX soft phone app, here down below where it says view configuration guide, it's a toggle. It says use third-party application. But you can click on that. And so now it says use virtual PBX application. We'd still give it a name, right? And then you would click on create device and then save changes. Once you click on save changes, Dante here would get an email saying his virtual PBX soft phone is ready. And that email is going to include his login information for the app as well as download links. So he can download the app to either his phone or his computer. He can use the app on either device, just not both at the same time, right? So you can't be logged in on your Mac and your iPhone at the same time. You would just log out of one and then be logged into it on the other device. Next up is web phone. Whoops. Again, this is that Chrome or Firefox device. You still get this warning message, but you see, give it a name and then click on create device and then save changes. Right? The web phone uses your dash login information to get logged in, so it does need to be associated with the user, so it has that information to reference to. But once you do that, then you can go to webphone.virtualpbx.net or use the little icon at the top of the screen to get to the web phone and log in. Next up, we have user features. First up is caller ID number. This allows you to change the outbound caller ID for this user to use a number that you've assigned to them. So first up here, you would click to enable, select the number on their user, and then click on save changes. So now, whenever I make an outbound call from my VoIP phones, right, this 408 number is my outbound caller ID, not the main number. That's 775 number I have selected under my main number. Voicemail box feature typically already enabled because it was added when the user was created. These are the default settings. One thing to keep in mind is voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. By default, there's 3 ways to listen to your messages, but only a couple ways to manage your voicemail box. Right? The first way to listen is because of this one here. Attach messages to email. So when a voicemail is left, right, an email is generated. In the body of the email, there's a date, the time, phone numbers involved, the voicemail box number, and then an MP3 attachment. Right? So you can simply click on that, listen to the voicemail message, and then go about your day. However, that doesn't actually manage your voicemail box. Now, you can always call into your voicemail box, right, directly from your VoIP phone, hit *98. That logs you into your specific voicemail box. It's going to ask you for your PIN number. You can listen to them over the phone that way. You can also choose to delete messages over the phone. Even from a cell phone or a landline, you can call into your main number that rings to an auto attendant. When you hear that main greeting play, you hit *97. Then the system will ask you for the voicemail box number and the PIN number. And then again, you can listen to messages and manage them that way. Also, up here on the menu icon, you can always go to your user portal. And when you do so, it defaults to your voicemail tab. So you can play back your messages, you can download them. Little box here, if you put a check mark, you can change its status. All right, so that's the other way to manage your voicemail box. One other thing I want to bring up here is you have this option here where you can have the system automatically delete voicemail box messages after the email has gone out. Right? That way a voicemail box doesn't become full. The limiting factor is that means your staff members can only ever check voicemails via email. Right? There's no way to call in. There's no way to listen to it via the website. They can only get it through their email. So if they ever have a problem with their emails, right, you could lose messages. Follow me. This is for users with multiple devices, and then you as an admin would decide how those how calls are being routed to their devices. So it defaults to everything as do not ring. So you're basically telling you to say, hey, which devices do you want to make use of? So then you would click on the little box to uncheck them and then click and drag, right? So now when calls come in, it's ringing both of these devices for about, what is that, 60 seconds or so. Now along here, these are timestamps, so I can change the total ring time down. I can also click distribute. So now it equalizes out between the two devices. I can click and drag and then click distribute again. So now I change the order. All right, if my staff member tells me, oh, they're gonna, part of the day they're gonna be working remote or they're gonna be at customer sites, so they like to have calls get to their sent to their cell phone, then I can uncheck that and then adjust this, right? And then when they're back on their normal schedule, click that back. Now, one thing to know about the follow me settings is that if a user is assigned to a group, which we'll be getting to shortly, calls from the group ignore the follow me settings, right? So if I'm in a group and a call from that group comes to my user, all three of my devices ring. All right, fax box, you can choose to have a user have their own fax box. If you want them to, you would just click on enable up here at the top. And then you have the option here to use a spare number, buy a new number, or add a new extension. I generally recommend making use of a phone number as that gives your user maximum versatility. Right now, selecting an extension will save you money in terms of you're not using up a phone number. However, that means your staff member can only ever receive faxes, and even then, you're potentially limiting who can send them a fax. Right. In terms of outbound faxing, the system will use that extension number as the outbound caller ID, which will fail since it's not a full phone number. And then in terms of inbound faxing, right, the person needs to be able to add an extension number to the phone number they're faxing to. Right. So like electronic fax services may not allow that feature, or they might, but they might cost more. And even for an analog fax machine, right, the person has to know how to be able to do that. Either that's listening in and then entering the extension number at the main greeting and then clicking send fax, or knowing the proper key commands to add extra digits after the fact. Conference bridge. Up here, you click to enable. That means this person can moderate a conference. And then here you enter in a conference PIN number. This is something they can change under the under their conference tab under the user portal. Enable video conferencing. This is only for in-house use, right? Anyone who's calling in from outside the system, right? So cell phone, a landline, or even a VoIP phone, but they're not on your Dash account, they're not going to be able to make use of it. Call forwarding. You have off, on, or failover mode. Now, your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own, right? They can either do that under the user portal or they can do it directly from their VoIP phone. Failover mode is something you as a system admin would set up for your VoIP phone users, right? You just click on failover mode and then enter in a phone number, right? +1, area code and number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then save changes. And what this means is if their VoIP phone goes offline for whatever reasons, and a call comes to that user at that time, the system will automatically forward the call to the phone number you designated, right? Likely their cell phone. Now, in the case of my user, right, I don't have follow me enabled. So all of my devices are in play, right? So that means by default, since I don't have follow me enabled, when a call comes in, it rings all three of my devices, including my cell phone, right? So then as a user, I don't need call forwarding enabled ever, right? Since it's already forwarding to my cell phone, right? But for a person who's only using a VoIP phone, right, then call forwarding, at least failover mode is something you definitely want, and then call forwarding is something they can turn on their own. Customized call recording. So when you first enable it, it looks like this, right? You basically have to tell the system which kind of calls you're going to record. right? Inbound internal, right? Coworker Bob called me, right? Inbound external, customer Mary called me, right? Outbound external, I called coworker Bob. Sorry, that's outbound internal, I should say. Right? Outbound external is I'm calling customer Mary. So we either see all four or the external ones only. Now, your account includes some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. That's going to be should be specified under the pricing page. If you're going to record every call and you have heavy call volume, you're definitely going to want to talk to our services team about AWS integration. This allows you to link your Dash account to an AWS account of your own so you can keep your call recordings with them. This is also something we recommend for people working insurance since there is a regulation in place to keep your call recordings for 10 years. Music on hold, you can choose to have customized on hold music for each of your staff, right? So instead of using the base one that we set up under the dashboard page, you would come here, click to enable the feature, upload a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 MB in size, right? Find it on your computer, hit the up arrow icon, and then save changes. So you would do this for instance, like your sales staff, you'd probably want hold music that's talking about special promotions or sales, whereas maybe for your support people, you might want customized hold music that talks about, going to the FAQ page to answer most questions instead of waiting on hold. Do not disturb, basically click to enable or click to disable. As an admin, you'd probably only do this for someone who had to leave for some sort of like family emergency and like, yeah, they don't need, their phone ringing while they're dealing with some sort of, emergency. Hot desking, a VoIP phone feature. This is designed for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling. So you would click to enable, and then you would create a hot desk ID. If you're making use of 4-digit extension numbers, I would suggest just making their hot disk ID match their extension number. And you can choose if you want to require a PIN number or not. If you do, you have to enter in a PIN number. And then you would click on Save Changes. So I come into the office on Tuesday. I sit down at desk number 2. I pick up the VoIP phone there. I hit *11 to turn on hot desking on that phone. It's going to ask me for my hot desk ID. I enter that, and then it'll tell me that calls will now be sent to this device. Right? So the rest of my workday, any call trying to reach me rings at the phone I'm sitting at. End of my workday, I pick up the phone, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking. Next time I come into the office, let's say that's Friday, right? Angela's sitting at desk number 2 already. I say good morning. I move over to desk number 5, pick up the phone, *11, enter hot desk ID, and now calls are coming to me at desk number 5. All right, next up we have groups, referred to as hunt groups or ring groups, right? Another way to think of it as departments, right? Basically a group of people answering calls about a similar topic. Up here at the top, click on add group, give it a name, give it an extension number, and then click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group. Click on create group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. You can always change the name if you want to, not a big deal. You have group call attempts, little arrows here where you can increase or decrease that as you see fit. This is just how many times the system offers calls to the members of the group. Here's your option to delete a group if you no longer need it. Otherwise, click on Save Changes if you made any changes. Then we've got the members box for the group, right? So here you see the people assigned to the group and how I'm offering calls to them. So this is blast ringing or ring all, right? So I'm offering the call to my staff members at the same time for the same amount of time. Whoever picks up the call first gets the call. All right. Now, in an office environment, you can probably tell who got the call, so you don't have to worry about it. In a remote working situation, it's possible, right, that Dante and Jeanette pick up a call at the same time, and one of them is sitting there going hello, hello, because they only have dead air. So they're not sure if there's, if their phone is having a problem or what, right? Unless you have something like, Slack or Teams or whatever to verify someone got the call. Now, along the top here, these are timestamps. The default ring time for a group is 2 minutes. Right? You can always change that if you want. You can also click distribute. So now it's ringing to my staff in this order every time, right? So Dante always gets the call, offer the call first. Now, if he's on a call, right? So like call comes into him, he answers it, right? He's helping the customer. And a second call comes into the group while he's on a call, right? He still offered the call first, right? So he might hear a call waiting beep on his phone, for instance. Right? So that inbound caller has to wait 30 seconds before then it's offered to David. Right? So then David answers, helping the customer. Third caller calls in. That third caller has to wait a minute before it's offered to Jeanette, right? Because the first two people are on a call. Now, you can alleviate some of that by clicking and dragging these ring bars so that there's less or there's more overlap so that those later callers aren't waiting and hold quite as long. Now, if this is something you just can't live with or you want a better option, you'd want to look at the call center or the call queues. There's a link there, the ACD Queues Pro demo. The call center is an advanced version of the groups, right? So there's more routing options. Your staff members can like mark themselves away and log themselves in and out of the queue versus they can't do so in a group unless they use a do not disturb toggle. Excuse me. Uh, and the queues also have things where like managers can eavesdrop in on a call, as well as whisper and barge in on a call to help out a staff member. Down here, you can always add users if you, in this case, if you had more. I only have the 3. You can also remove people if they're no longer part of that responsible group. Extension numbers, you can add additional extension numbers for groups if you need to. Just click on add extension and then enter the new extension number and then save changes. Just like users, you can add numbers directly to a group. And it's, again, these phone numbers are available 24/7, right? No hours of operation. You have the little gear icon here as well. And then group features, ring back. So call comes into the group, starts ringing your staff members' phones. That ringing sound is then piped back to your inbound caller. Right? That's where the term ring back comes from. If you click enable, you can instead upload your own media file to play instead of that ringing sound. Now, this media file, the duration of it should match or exceed your total ring time of the group, right? The system is not going to loop it for you. So right now, and so the default ring time for a group is 2 minutes. So just make sure your media file is 2 minutes long. But find the file on your computer by clicking browse, click the up arrow icon, and then save changes. Next action, you click up here to enable, and if no one is able to pick up, where do you want the call to go? Right. Typically voicemail is selected, but you can send it to like a different group. You can send it to a specific user. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it back to your main menu. Something that you've already created on your system basically has to be there. Allow call forward. If you click enable, that means your users can make use of call forwarding. Right, so basically, if your staff is basically just using VoIP phones, you'd probably want this enabled so that way they can make use of call forwarding to their cell phones in case they're away from their desk, etc., or like visiting customer site. Caller ID prepend for a group, you can have additional text or numbers that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones in front of the caller ID. I usually suggest using one or the other. My personal preference is text just because it's easier for my brain to work with, but it's whichever you prefer. All right, so now that we have users with devices and groups, we can go over here to main number on the left. First up, you got your main company numbers. So these are the numbers that people dial in, right? This is your general numbers. Right. You can always click on assign to remove a number if you no longer want it as a main number. You can add from spare or by new if you want to add new numbers to the account or to the as a main number. Right. So you would just click on a spare and add selected or by new, like we showed under users. You got the little gear icon here so you can update the caller ID E911 and prepend. Office hours strategy, you can be 24-hour open office or custom office hours. If you choose custom office hours for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day, and then select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option here to say that you're closed for lunch at the same time every day, and then enter your lunch hours again in that 24-hour or military time, and then make sure you click on Save Changes. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, make sure you've got a check mark here. And then over on the right, click on Add Holiday. You have the option here for single day, date range, or advanced. Each one creates a new row. Right, so single day, I have like here for Christmas Day. I gave it a name. I choose the month and the date, and then Save Changes. Date range, I have chosen here for holiday. Right, so I gave it a name, start date, end date, Save Changes. And then advanced, I have up here for Memorial Day. So I gave it a name, choose the month. I choose in the second pull down any of first through fifth, as well as last, and then the day of the week, and then Save Changes. If you need to get rid of a holiday, just click on the little trash icon and then Save Changes. Then we have incoming call handling. Notice I have open hours, I have after hours, and holidays, right? So I have different routing depending on the time of day. So during my open hours, from my main numbers, so those 4 numbers I left, during my open hours, calls come in, they go to my virtual receptionist. This is a link. So here are my menu options, right? This is what people can press on their phones to navigate through the phone system. I can click on Add Route to add a new row, right? This first pull down is going to be 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. The second pull down is something on my system, right? So typically you want the things already created. So they can be groups, they can be users, they can be devices. If you have call queues, you can make it the call queue, etc. You can also have the directory. Then on the right, you've got your greeting options, right? So this is where you say thank you for calling. Then you want to give directions, right, in terms of what to press to get to who. First up, text-to-speech, right? This is, you simply type in a greeting and the system reads it back in a computerized robotic voice. There's no charge for this, right? It's a free service. The downside is that the system names the file for you. So in this case, it'd be called main open hours menu TTS. So it's very possible that your account could have many file names called main open hours menu TTS. My recommendation is if you make use of text-to-speech, after you've created it, on the left-hand side, click on the greetings tab and rename it, just so it's something easier for you to find later or to select from the pull-down menus. But this is something we recommend, especially for people new to PBX systems in general, or just a startup. You're not exactly sure yet how you want calls to route. You're going to upload your own file, right? .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte. Choose the file on your device, and then click Update, and then Save Changes. Right? And it will upload it directly. Choose from existing recordings. This pull down will show all your media files on the account. Right, so like ringback files, voicemail greeting files, main greetings. So that's why you want names that you can recognize easily. You can record it over the phone. Now, when the system says pick up a phone registered to the account, that means pick up a VoIP phone. If you want to use a cell phone or landline, you can do so. However, first, you want to go down to Settings, and where it says Allow Outside Recording, turn that on. So now you can use a cell phone or landline to record your main greeting. This is a security feature, right? We don't want anyone just being able to change your main greeting because that could be very disruptive to your service. So the recommendation is that's fine that if you want to use a cell phone or landline to change your greeting, but when you're done, come back here and turn that back to off. Now, then you still need this PIN number. This PIN number is specific to this account and to this time of day. All right, so my account is set up Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So if I call on Saturday, this PIN number doesn't work, right? I'll get an invalid entry message because I'd be calling during my after hours. But beyond that, when you call into the system, right, you'll hear the greeting play. You enter the PIN number, and then it'll walk you through recording a greeting over the phone. It's gonna overwrite the existing greeting that's there with the, the recording that you just made. And then under the greetings tab, I usually recommend downloading a copy of your main greeting so that way you have it as a backup. Professional recording services, if you click order, this opens up a new tab and takes you to Snap Recordings. It's a separate company. And they have something like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. And they send the file to you via email. So then you would come back up here to upload your own file. All right, settings. First up, number of retries on missed dial. Right, this is how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake. They have one built-in attempt automatically, right? So even though right now I have it set to 0, they still get one chance. All right, then after that, that's it. Now, typically anywhere from 0 to 3 is plenty, depending on what you want to do with your system. Excuse me. Dialing timeout. This is how much time the system listens for an additional button press. Right, so in this case, the system waits for 5 seconds before it assumes the people are done. And then it will try to route them to whatever they entered in up to that point. The system defaults that to 10, by the way. I usually recommend changing that down just to make it less time for each caller. We already covered allow outside recording. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and this just means if the person calling in enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. If I turn this off, that means my inbound caller can only press the menu options. Any extension number they enter gets treated as an invalid entry. And then we have the suppress the playing of invalid entry message. So on that, and in this case, they only get one attempt. So after that attempt, the system would say, we did not recognize your entry. And then in this case, I'll send it to my default action, right? Because I have it here going to my smart PBX directory. In that case, I probably want to turn off that message, right? Just saying, and so instead of saying we did not recognize your entry, the system would just transfer the directory so they can try to search for who they want. If I didn't have a default action, then I probably want to leave that on off. So that way the system just tells them, hey, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye. Right? So just clear cut for the inbound caller. Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you need to click save down here at the bottom right, and then save changes back here under incoming call. Incoming call handling, excuse me. Right, so you're clicking save twice. Now, for my after hours calls, I'm making use of the second option, which we refer to as the live operator answer option. And that is because in this first pull down here, I'm giving somebody, or in this case, 3 people, my support group, a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to pick up, then it goes to my after hours virtual receptionist, right? But this pull down, I can select any group, any user. I can even select a specific phone, right? But basically, the idea is you're trying to give somebody or some people a chance to answer the call first. But then the virtual receptionist for my after hours, right? I have different menu options because again, after hours, I probably have a different greeting in place because again, it's saying, hey, you're outside of our normal business hours, blah, blah, blah. Then save changes. Now for holidays, I selected this third options, and this first pull down, you can choose to have it go to a user, a group, a media file, a device, etc. In this case, I scrolled all the way down here to the last option where it said, hey, just send them to a voicemail. Right? The second pull down is a voicemail box on the account. Main conference number, you can always add from spare or by new, right? You can have multiple conference numbers if you're so inclined. You can also have a custom text-to-speech greeting. You would just click enable and then type in up to 250 characters, not words. The main fax box number, you can only have the one main fax box number, but once you do, you can edit the fax box here. Inbound notification email in the box to the right, enter an email address, and that email will get notified every time a fax comes through. They'll have the date, the time, phone numbers involved, and then a PDF attachment. Now, downside is if someone dials your fax box number, let's say from the cell phone, right, and they hang up when they hear fax tones, because that's what most people would do, this person or this email gets an email saying there was a failed inbound fax attempt. Now, in the body of the email, if it gives you the phone numbers and it says wireless number, you know that was a misdial. Right? But beyond that, you'd want to either double check with whoever's sending you a fax to let them know, hey, it didn't go through, or check your fax log as well. Email permissions. This is designed to put your company email domain here in the box to the right. Right? So anyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out from this account, even if they're not a user on there. Right? They just have to have a virtualpbx.com email domain. You can also put a specific email address if you only want one person to fax out. But when they fax out, create an email like they normally do. In the to field, put the plus sign, number 1, area code or phone number they're faxing to. Put the little @ symbol, and then your account realm. Then attach a PDF or a TIFF file and click send. The system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. It doesn't transmit anything that you put in the subject line of the email or in the body of the email. Right? So if you need a cover sheet, you need to include that as part of your PDF, and only one attachment per email. All right. Auto attendance is a plan-specific feature and or add-on. Right? This allows you to have additional auto attendance. So you could use submenuing, right? 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, or you have multiple businesses, right? Each business has its own phone numbers and own greetings. You would click on Add Attendant, give it a name, give it an extension number, click on Create Attendant. The extension number is not something your customers would likely ever know, but your staff members can use it to transfer to the correct business or group in terms of like language or team for that matter. Once an attendant is created, it starts off as being unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant. And so in this case, it's a separate business, so I would want to leave it that way. But like my Spanish attendant here, I clicked it to say act available in main menu, right? So therefore, it's a menu option, so people can press it. I can make it an option under my virtual receptionist. Also, when it's available in main menu, it's also an option from my group as a next action. Right? Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? Add from spare or by new. You can add additional extension numbers to them if you want to. And then you've got the little wrench icon here under settings. So you got open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This matches what you set up under the main menu. And then you only have the option for the virtual receptionist. So you have to set up a greeting for them and menu options. So people have an option to go someplace. And then you would click on save and save changes. The devices tab shows all the devices you've added on the account. A red device, like I have here, that means it's unregistered. Now, that could be like for a cell phone or web phone, they're not simply logged in. It can also mean they're having a network problem. Right? From here, we can't tell. All we know is it's not registered. Right? Green device, we can send a call to it. Not a problem. And then this black one here, I've turned it off, right? Which, right, if I click on, so now it will be red, turn the black off and it'll be back to black. You can always add devices directly here to the devices tab. However, you can't assign it to anyone from this page. And one thing I want to caution you is selecting soft phone. You still get that warning message, but here on the device page, you're only adding a third-party soft phone. Right? There's no option to make it a VirtualPBX soft phone because that needs to be associated with an email address, which is only on a user. Additionally, you've got the little wrench icon here under Edit. So if we go to Advanced Audio, for physical devices, codec-wise, you want to make use of G711A or G711U. That might require you clicking and dragging a codec over. Emergency information or E911, select the phone number on the account, and then if there's an address associated with that phone number, it will then show up here, right? So if this VoIP phone dials 911, this is the address that gets transmitted to emergency services versus, say, my corporate headquarters. All right, Greetings tab shows all your media files on the account, right? Main greetings, voicemail greetings, etc. Up here at the top, you can add a file, right? So you can upload it here, give it a name, find the file on your device, and then click on Create Greeting. However, it only adds it here, right? You can't assign it anywhere until or you can't assign it from here. Right? You have to go directly to where you want to assign it. Right? Name is what the file is named. Source, TTS, is text to speech. Upload means the file was uploaded. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. You have the option to play it back, so you can listen to that file directly in your browser. So that way you can tell if it's still relevant, right? If it's not, then you can get rid of it. Download. Right, you can download the file to your device. I recommend this for your default main greetings, for your main number especially, but also for any auto attendants. That way you have a backup somewhere, right? You're not just relying on us. Also, you could do that if for some reason the file isn't playing back in your browser. The little wrench icon here under Edit, this is where you would change the name to something that you can recognize more easily, or you can get rid of it if you don't need it any longer. Numbers tab just shows you your numbers in use and where they're assigned. Got the little gear icon to update E911 and prepend, etc. Spare numbers, these are the numbers you're not currently using. Now you see I have a lot of numbers here. So if I want to reduce my phone bill, an easy way to do that would be get rid of these numbers that I'm not using. I would just put a check mark in front of any number I don't want any longer. And now I have this option to delete up here. And then click on delete numbers. And now I have way less phone numbers on my account. So my next bill will be shorter or smaller. Voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Right. Any that have a name selected here to the right means it was a voicemail box created with the user. You can create new voicemail boxes here. So for instance, you would use with your groups or any call queues. Give it a name, give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number, and then click on Create Voicemail Box. Right. So the voicemail box number and PIN number is what you would use to access the voicemail box over the phone. Right. It's like if you want to check messages over the phone, record the greeting over the phone. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the voicemail box number is not the same as an extension number. So if you go, call into the system's main number and enter 3333, you're not getting to this voicemail box. All right, so then we go under Advanced Greeting Media. You can upload your own files. right? Or you can select something that's already on the system. If you have something selected in both temporary and media, only the temporary file plays. The media file won't play again until you set temporary back to none, right? So that temporary is for that out of office or vacation message. .wave.mp3 up to 1 MB. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes, right, have a built-in recipient, that email address used for login. But any voicemail box, you can click here to add recipients, and then you can add additional email addresses and keep clicking add until you're done. And then anything that shows up here is on top of any voicemail box or email addresses that are associated with the user. Right, so they each are getting a copy. And then click on Save Changes. And then Options. So once a voicemail box has a media file in place and has recipients, click on Already Set Up. And that means basically you're not changing it over the phone. With that, here's your option to make sure that that voicemail box is attaching messages to email. In this case, I also am opting to delete after notification, right? Because this voicemail box is my support voicemail box. I would never want it to get full, right? Because that would be unnerving to my customers. And then click on Save Changes. Now, voicemail boxes can be a menu option from your main numbers, right? They're just not extension numbers. Virtual text forward, this is an add-on. This allows you to have a number accept inbound text messages and then forward them on. It is not for two-way text communication. We click on add text forward or add number, select the phone number on the account. The number has to start off as a spare number, right? And then after you set this up, you can then assign it to a user or group, etc. And then choose either enter an email address or a webhook. A webhook would assume that you have webhooks enabled on your account. It's a plan specific feature, so you'd have to talk to our sales team. Most people choose email as that's easiest. And then you would click on create virtual text forward. So basically these phone numbers, whenever a text is received, these people get an email say, hey, here's a new text and here's what it said. And then they can act on it accordingly. A text forward number cannot be a virtual text number, right? It's either one or the other. Virtual extensions, plan specific feature. This allows you to create extension numbers not associated with an email address, right? So it's not a user. You would just click on add extension. You give it a name, give it an extension number, click on create extension, and then you would add a device, right? SIP phone, cell phone. Now, soft phone, you can only add a third-party soft phone because there's no email address, right? Typically, we see cell phones added most, sometimes web phones, but these virtual extensions, right? They're accessible from the main menu, right? Because of the extension number, people can dial it. It can also be a menu option from the virtual reception or any auto attendants for that matter. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You have today, this week, this month, right? These are all downloadable as a CSV file. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll get some more out of it in terms of the call logs. You can also go custom, which then you can change the date range. So for instance, I can go back to the previous month and then click filter, and I can see the calls that have come in and gone out. If you click on a call, you can get potentially more information about what was going on with that call. A green arrow to the right is a call coming into the system, whereas a yellow arrow to the left is a call leaving the system, right? So outbound call, generally speaking. So here you see a call that connected or was trying to connect to a device, right? So there's two legs here. First is the inbound leg, call coming from out the system into it, and then from the system to the device. And then you see here, right, the user was busy, so they didn't pick up. Right, typically speaking, you want to see normal clearing because that would indicate that they connected and the call ended normally. little fire extinguisher icon here. This creates an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's going to have the technical details of the call. Please type in some context about why you sent the call in, because just from the technical details, we may not know why. Like, for instance, if you had bad audio quality, that doesn't come up in the technical details. Now, under the custom field, you can go back up to 12 months. If you need to go back further, you can contact the support team. We'd have to escalate that up to our engineers, but they can only go back up to 18 months. After that, the data may not be available, and there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it. So if you need to have your call logs for any kind of compliance reasons, you might want to make sure to do that on a monthly basis. Feature codes, I've talked about a couple of these. These are ways for your Dash users or your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phones. Obviously, this is a page here. It's also in the support pages. There's also in the support pages the phone commands cheat sheet, which has the context help, which might be as useful. All right, so that's the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. This is a list of phone numbers that you create that you are blocking from reaching your staff. So click Edit Blacklists over here on the right, and you would click Add to create a new list or select an existing list. Give it a name, and then choose if you're blocking anonymous calls or not. Anonymous calls just means a call comes in and it's not presenting valid caller ID. So by default, this is off, meaning they come through, right? Or you can turn it on so that they don't get through. Beyond that, you come down here where it says add number and click, and then put +1 area code and number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Keep clicking add until you're done, right? Then click on save, the bottom right. Then at the top right, click on back to settings. Make sure your list is over here on the right under selected, right? You might have to click and drag it. But typically once you've already created and moved it over, it stays there. And then click update. There we go. So once you've updated any number on these three lists, they reach the system, right? It would show up in your call log, but they're not going to get through to your staff members, right? The inbound caller gets busy tone. Call recording. So this will do one of two things. In this case, this account is set up with AWS. So it's showing me my AWS interface here, so I can see the call recordings. If you don't have AWS set up on your account, it would instead take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. It has a login page, which just uses your Dash login. There, you would view your recordings there. You can download them, play them back, etc. Monitor plan specific feature. This allows you to see your staff in terms of like what kind of, if they're on calls or not. It doesn't matter what device they're using. You can specify by device if you want to, or employees. You got all, who's available and who's busy. Over here, active inbound calls. Each one would be a little blue box and showing who they're speaking to among your staff. If anyone's used the parking features, that person would show up with their phone number and their parking spot number. Reports, plan specific feature, or actually add-on as well. This opens up a new tab, takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com, which has its own login information. But there you can create your own reports. If you go in the show notes, there's the advanced reporting demo. Take a look at that. That can give you an idea of the kind of capabilities that are available. And then you can either add on, or if there's, I should point out, if there's a few add-ons that you want to add and they all have a cost associated with it, before you enable all of them, you might want to talk to our account services team just to make sure it's not more cost effective just to change plans. All right, voicemails. This gets you to your voicemail box manager. You can get to any voicemail box on your account as a system admin, and you can see the messages here, right? You can see the date, the time, phone numbers involved. You can play them back. You can download them. Also, from the voicemail manager, when you click on a box, You can choose to move the voicemail to a different voicemail box, right? So if it's in the wrong place, as well as change its status. Integration AWS plan specific feature, right? This is what allows me to link my Dash account to an AWS account. And basically from AWS, we need the access or access key ID, the secret access key, and then the bucket. All right, and then we would be storing the related files there. A call center. This is an upgrade off of existing plans. This is call queues. In the show notes, look at the ACD Queues Pro demo. Right, that's the Whisper, the Barge, etc. Staff members can log themselves in and out. Right, so just an advanced version of groups. Dynamic caller ID, plan specific or upgrade feature, or add-on feature, I should say. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So first, this one, you give it a name, you choose a phone number on your account. And in this case, I just said that whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code phone number, to change the outbound caller ID to the 702 number I selected. Right, so it looks like a local call to the people I'm calling. Alternatively, I set up this one where my staff members need to dial *951. Right, so I created a feature code specifically for that. Then they enter the area code and phone number they're reaching out to. And when they do so, it changes the outbound caller ID to this 916 number. Faxes, this is your fax manager. You can get to any fax box on the account. Starts you off on your inbound faxes, so you can see like the date, the time, phone numbers involved. You can download the file if for some reason you didn't get the email or you misplaced the copy you got from email. Outbound faxes, get to your outbound fax tab. If there's a failure, if you mouse over it, it will give you at least a little bit more information. And in this case, it's saying that there's a timeout. So the phone number was valid, right? We connected, but then we didn't get the correct tones. So it might not have been an actual fax number. All right, so basically we had a problem with the phone number. Right. Now, the email to fax logs, if you have information here, that means the system had a problem processing this request. You can see the email addresses involved, so you can make sure that they're in the proper format or from the correct people, right? I.e., someone didn't use their personal email address by accident. But you would want to click on the little eyeball icon here, and you see here that the error is no valid attachments. So they maybe forgot the attachment completely, or they set something other than a PDF or a TIFF file. Number manager just takes you back to your spare number page. I'm going to skip down here to SMS registration. So in order to make use of texting, you have to go through SMS registration. If you just signed up with us, this may not show up right away. You need to talk to our account services team because they want to go over SMS registration with you, as well as there is a setup fee. I believe it's $29. It's a one-time setup fee. But again, our account services team is much more versed in that. But they also help you in terms of define what things are. This tells you some as well. You can start your registration on the second tab and then see your registration status on this third tab. Webhooks, plan-specific feature. This is some level of programming. I'm sure for real programmers, this is pretty basic. For those of us who aren't, this is possibly a different language. But this is how you link your Dash account to other software. If you look in the show notes, there's the introduction to Zapier webinar, which covers some of webhooks and some of what's possible. You can also go over to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we've done to link Dash to other software. And then beyond that, you can speak to our sales team about that. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal, right? So, and it defaults you to your voicemail tab, right? So you can listen to your voicemails, download them, click on the box to change their status. Call history. This lets me see my personal call history. I can change the date range. and see what calls went through. There we go. Fax tab only works for users that have their own fax box, but basically they can see their fax history. Contact list is everything within their Dash account. That includes feature codes and whatnot. So it makes it easier for your staff members to like make transfers, among other things. Conference. This is your conference tab for your staff members who have the conference feature enabled. Over on the right, here's their moderator PIN number and then their participant PIN number. We recommend that these be different from each other, uh, just for security purposes. You have the option here to have people join deafened or muted, as well as play entry and exit tones. While in a conference, the little plus icon here lets you invite other Dash users to your conference. Little lock icon to lock the conference so no one else can join. Mute everybody, unmute everybody, hang up the conference call. Also, while in a conference, each moderator and participant has their own little box. And that allows the moderator to mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person if necessary. Settings and devices, right here is where your users can enable call forwarding themselves. They just put a check mark here, put +1 area code and phone number that they're forwarding to, and then save, right? And so now I am call forwarding. There we go. Right now, when I'm done with that, I just come back up here, uncheck it, and then save. And now I'm no longer call forwarding. And that is everything. I haven't seen any questions pop up here, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and we will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Have a wonderful day.